Hey guys, so after you watch the Amoeba Sisters cell cycle video, we're going to run through these Seneca lessons really fast, just 2.1.1 and 2.1.2 over the cell cycle. So what the notes say is we've already seen that not all cells can divide. For example, viruses need a host cell to divide. So eukaryotic cells that have the ability to divide have a cell cycle, a specific cycle that they go through every time they need to replicate. So cells on the path to cell division proceed through a series of precisely timed and carefully regulated stages of growth, DNA replication, and division. This is what we call the cell cycle. So there are different phases in the cell cycle. It has two major phases. You have interphase and the mitotic phase, or what we normally refer to as mitosis. So during interphase, this cell grows and DNA is replicated. During mitotic phase or mitosis, the replicated DNA and cytoplasmic contents are separated and the cell divides. So these are two types of cell division in eukaryotes. We have mitosis and meiosis. Meiosis is completed in our sex cells, and mitosis is completed in all of our other cells. So your skin cells, your blood cells, your muscle cells, cardiovascular cells, whatever else there is besides your sex cells, that's where mitosis occurs. So the first step is interphase. It's subdivided into three growth stages called G1, S, and G2 stage or phase. So in the G1 phase, we have the cells accumulating the building blocks of chromosomal DNA and the associated proteins. It's also accumulating sufficient energy reserves to complete the task of replicating each chromosome in the nucleus. In the S phase, DNA synthesis happens. That's where DNA comes together and produces more DNA. And then you have G2 phase. It's where the cell replenishes its energy stores and synthesizes proteins necessary for chromosome manipulation. After interphase, you go through the mitotic phase. So mitosis is the part of the cell in which a eukaryotic cell divides to produce two daughter cells, each with the identical copies of DNA produced by the parent cell during DNA replication. Multicellular organisms go through mitosis to grow and repair damaged tissues. So in the mitotic phase is where they actually replicate and make two daughter cells. They make two out of one. Within the mitotic phase, there's a gap zero phase. It's where they don't actively prepare to divide, so where they're kind of like frozen. It can be temporary until triggered by an external signal to enter G1 or permanent, such as mature cardiac muscle cells and nerve cells. So once mature cardiac muscle cells and nerve cells, once they've reached maturity, they enter this GO phase or gap zero phase where they don't prepare to divide anymore. They've reached max. So we've already seen that not all cells can divide. For example, viruses require a what kind of cell to divide? They need a host cell in order to divide. Eukaryotic cells that have the ability to divide go through a cell cycle. Which of the following statements regarding the cell cycle are true? So eukaryotic cells divide to produce three daughter cells or two daughter cells. It's going to be two daughter cells. All right. And then we have daughter cells have different copies of DNA, or daughter cells have identical copies. They have identical copies. And then DNA replication happens in the S phase of interphase. All right. Then we have three stages of interphase. We have the S phase, which is where DNA synthesis happens. We have what phase, where the cell begins to grow. And we have what phase, where the cell grows before the mitotic phase begins. So we have G1 and G2 to fill in here. Normally one comes before two, so we're going to put G1 in the first one and G2 in the second one.